Hey there, treasure seekers! You're watching the Rare Coins Explorers, the ultimate spot where hidden numismatic gems get unearthed and their stories brought to life. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny, ordinary-looking piece of copper that could secretly be worth thousands of dollars, a coin that millions of people have handled without a second thought, yet a lucky few have realized it was a hidden treasure. And today we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1980 USA 1-cent coin with a face value of just 1 penny but a potential collector's value soaring up to $2,800, making it one of the most exciting and surprising finds in modern coin history. Because while at first glance it appears just like any other Lincoln cent with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, subtle minting errors, rare die varieties, and condition-related anomalies have combined to make certain examples incredibly valuable, the kind of coin that turns pocket change into a life-changing discovery. So let's explore what makes this little copper piece so remarkable, starting with the fact that 1980 was a transitional era in U.S. coinage history, just 2 years before the U.S. Mint switched from mostly copper composition to copper-plated zinc, meaning these 1980 cents were made with a 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy, giving them a distinct heft and tone that collectors cherish. But beyond composition, the real magic lies in the errors and varieties that emerge during the minting process. Because minting millions upon millions of coins each year inevitably opens the door to mistakes, and for the 1980 cent, those mistakes became goldmines for numismatists. One such example is the 1980 doubled die obverse, where the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or Lincoln's profile shows clear signs of doubling under magnification, a visual quirk caused by misalignment during hubbing that fascinates collectors and drives up auction prices. And then there's the off-center strike variety, where the coin's design is noticeably shifted, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed, with dramatic off-centers over 50%. Bringing in hundreds or even thousands depending on overall condition, along with broad strikes, which occur when a coin is struck without the collar that keeps its shape, causing the edges to spread outward and giving it a larger than normal appearance. And let's not forget clipped planchets where a section of the coin is missing due to a misfeed during planchet cutting. Each of these errors telling a small but fascinating story of mint machinery, human oversight, and sheer probability. And while common examples of 1980 cents might only be worth face value or a few cents above melt value, those rare, pristine, error-laden coins can command jaw-dropping figures when they hit the auction block, especially if they're in uncirculated or proof-like condition, graded by top services like PCGS or NGC as MS65 or higher. Because condition is king in coin collecting, and the cleaner the surfaces, the sharper the strike, the more a buyer will pay. But rarity isn't the only draw. There's a nostalgic charm to holding a coin minted over 4 decades ago, imagining the countless hands it passed through, the pockets it jingled in, the registers it clinked into, all before ending up in the possession of someone with a keen enough eye to spot its unique quirks. And that's the magic of numismatics. It turns everyday objects into historical artifacts, investments, and conversation pieces all at once. And the 1980 cent fits that description perfectly, because even without an error, certain high-grade business strikes have sold for hundreds simply due to their flawless preservation, while error coins with bold, eye-catching mistakes can push that $2,800 figure or more in competitive bidding wars. And this means that right now, somewhere in your coin jar, wallet, or spare change pile, there could be a 1980 penny worth far more than its humble face value, hiding in plain sight just waiting for discovery. So if you start checking your coins and learn how to recognize these error types, doubling, off-centers, broad strikes, clips, even die cracks or cuts where chunks of the die broke off and left raised blobs on the coin, you could be next in line to experience the thrill of finding one. And the beauty of this hobby is that it's accessible to anyone, no expensive equipment needed beyond a decent magnifying glass and good lighting. And as stories of people finding rare coins in circulation keep going viral online, the hunt for treasures like the 1980 penny is hotter than ever, combining the excitement of a treasure hunt with the reward of potentially big payouts. So whether you're a seasoned collector or a curious newcomer, remember that knowledge is the key to unlocking these hidden values, because the more you know about the small details, the better your chances of spotting something extraordinary. And in the case of the 1980 cent, that extraordinary could mean turning a single cent into thousands, which is why coin enthusiasts keep a close watch for them at yard sales, flea markets, and even in everyday change, because you never know when one might appear, and the day you find one could be the day you join the lucky few who've turned small change into serious money. So keep your eyes sharp, your coins close, and your passion alive. And if you've enjoyed this journey into the fascinating world of rare coins and want more stories of small treasures worth big money, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we uncover more hidden gems in the history of US coinage. Next, 2008 1-cent coin. Imagine holding a simple penny in your hand, a coin so small and ordinary that most people wouldn't think twice before tossing it into a jar or dropping it in change at the counter. Yet what if I told you that one specific version of the 2008 USA 1-cent coin could be worth an astounding $215? Turning what seems like pocket change into an object of intense fascination for collectors and historians alike. And today we're diving deep into the captivating story of this incredible coin, exploring how something minted in the millions could hide rare traits, unique errors, and fascinating quirks that elevate it into a realm of value most people could hardly imagine. Because when it comes to coins, rarity isn't always about age, sometimes it's about what went wrong during the minting process or what happened to a particular batch after they left the US Mint. And in the case of the 2008 1-cent coin, there's a blend of mystery, historical significance, and tangible flaws that make it an irresistible prize for numismatists. So let's start with the year itself, 2008, a time when the Lincoln cent was still using the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse design before the major redesign in 2009 that would bring in the Lincoln bicentennial cents, meaning coins from 2008 were already on the cusp of becoming a transitional moment in US coin history. But it's not just the design context that matters, because in certain minting runs that year there were subtle and sometimes dramatic minting errors that created coins unlike any others. And if you've ever heard of doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or even misaligned dies, you'll know that each of these can drastically raise the value of a coin. So picture a 2008 1-cent coin struck with a doubled die obverse where Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions appear doubled under magnification. An error invisible to most casual observers but glaringly obvious to a trained eye and immediately desirable in the collector's market. Or consider coins struck off-center where part of the design is missing or shifted, leaving a crescent of blank copper-plated zinc where the image should be, a striking visual oddity that collectors can't resist. And then there are the die cracks, tiny raised lines caused by cracks in the die itself, that can create unique patterns on the coin's surface, sometimes resembling lightning bolts, maps, or even faces, making each affected coin a one-of-a-kind piece of minting art. But perhaps the most intriguing category is the so-called wrong planchet errors, where a cent is struck on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin, resulting in unusual sizes, weights, or compositions that are instantly rare. And in 2008 there were reports of cents accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations, further adding to the lore surrounding this particular year. Yet it's not just about errors, because even well-struck 2008 cents can hold higher value if they're in exceptional condition, with uncirculated examples graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services commanding surprising prices due to their scarcity in such pristine state, since most coins enter circulation quickly and pick up wear, scratches, and dings that downgrade their grade. So a 2008 cent fresh from a mint roll, gleaming with luster and free from blemishes, can be a real treasure. And this brings us to the story of why a particular example reached the remarkable valuation of $215, because it wasn't just a single factor but a combination, a high-grade uncirculated condition, a striking double die error, and a limited survival rate due to most coins being spent into circulation before collectors could set them aside, which means the few that remain are fiercely sought after at auctions and private sales, with bidding wars erupting as collectors recognize the chance to own a transitional-era Lincoln cent with a rare flaw. And if you think about it, the magic of coin collecting is that it turns something as mundane as a penny into a historical artifact, a conversation starter, and even a small investment, and the 2008 cent is a perfect example because it exists at a crossroads between the long-running Lincoln Memorial design and the commemorative designs of 2009, making it historically interesting even without errors. But when you add in minting mistakes, impeccable preservation, and a passionate collector base, you have the recipe for a modern coin worth far more than its face value. And while $215 might not seem like a fortune compared to multi-million-dollar rarities, the idea that you could pluck such a coin from pocket change or a jar in your kitchen is thrilling, a reminder that treasure hunting doesn't always require a metal detector or a deep dive into the ocean. Sometimes it just requires looking closely at the coins in your hand. And that's why so many people in the numismatic world preach the value of knowledge. Because once you know what to look for, be it a double date, a die cracked through the memorial, a weak strike, or an off-metal planchet, you open the door to spotting value where others see none, and in the end, the 2008 USA 1-cent coin valued at $215 isn't just a piece of currency, it's a testament to the fact that even in an age of digital transactions and credit cards, the physical coin still has the power to surprise, delight, and reward those who pay attention. So next time you get change, take a second to examine those pennies, because you never know when you might be holding a little piece of history worth far more than you think. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most intriguing modern coin stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible tales of coins, history, and hidden treasures that might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing modern pennies in United States coinage history, the 2001 cent coin that in certain conditions, because of its errors and mistakes, has been valued as high as $82, a remarkable price considering it started life as just a humble penny struck for everyday transactions, yet has found its way into the spotlight of collectors and auction houses alike. And to understand why a coin from a year not so long ago can be worth such surprising sums, we have to explore not just its basic background, but also the subtle and sometimes dramatic minting flaws that can turn ordinary change into extraordinary finds, beginning with the context of the year 2000 when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents in both Philadelphia and Denver, each featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design used since 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And by the turn of the millennium, these coins were largely overlooked by the public, seen as mere workhorses of commerce. Yet among these billions of strikes were a small fraction that slipped through the Mint's strict quality controls with anomalies that, while accidental, would prove to be gold mines for collectors decades later. Errors such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet wasn't properly seated in the press, leading to dramatic crescent-shaped blanks and shifted portraits, or broad strikes where the collar failed to hold the coin in place, causing it to spread beyond its normal diameter and lose its raised rim, or die cracks and cuts where wear, stress, or tiny fractures in the steel dies left raised lines, blobs, or missing sections in the coin's design, often creating strange, one-of-a-kind patterns that appeal to error specialists. And then there are double dies, among the most sought-after errors, where a misalignment in the hubbing process causes parts of the design to appear doubled, especially in the date or lettering, which on a 2000 cent can be dramatic enough to make seasoned collectors' eyes widen. And let's not forget striking on the wrong planchet, a rare but thrilling occurrence where a cent's design is accidentally struck on a blank meant for a dime or foreign coin, leading to size, weight, and color anomalies that stand out immediately, with such mistakes sometimes realized only years later when a sharp-eyed finder examines their change closely. Now in the case of the 2000 Lincoln cent, certain double die examples, particularly those involving the reverse lettering on the Lincoln Memorial side, have drawn intense interest, especially when the doubling is bold and visible without magnification, and while minor mechanical doubling, caused by die bounce, doesn't add much value. True hub doubling can be worth tens of dollars or more depending on demand. Add to that the possibility of transitional errors from earlier planchet compositions, though officially the Mint had switched from bronze to copper-plated zinc in 1982, and you have a recipe for constant speculation and close inspection by hobbyists. And the thrill of finding one of these coins comes from knowing that out of the sea of normal strikes, yours is different, flawed in a way that makes it special. And that specialness is what collectors pay for, with pristine, uncirculated examples of rare errors, often commanding the highest prices, especially when graded and authenticated by professional services like PCGS or NGC, who encapsulate the coin in tamper-evident holders that both protect and certify its details. And while $82 might not sound like a fortune, it represents an 8,200% increase over face value, a return that even the best stock pickers would envy. And it's achievable not through luck alone, but through knowledge, persistence, and a keen eye, because these coins don't wear neon signs announcing their worth. They hide in drawers, piggy banks, rolls from the bank, and even change given at a coffee shop, waiting for someone who knows what to look for, and that someone could be you, checking for uneven rims, odd weights, strange colors, distorted letters, or the ghost-like repetition of doubled features, knowing that each anomaly tells a story of the minting process gone slightly awry. A story stamped in metal and carried through the hands of countless people before ending up under your gaze. And beyond the thrill of personal discovery, the 2001 cent-era coins also connect us to the broader narrative of American coinage, the technological precision of the mint, the human oversight still required, and the fact that even in a system designed for perfection, imperfection has value, a paradox that fuels the numismatic world. So whether you're a seasoned collector with a microscope at your desk or a casual observer sifting through spare change while watching TV, the message is clear: these treasures exist, and with every coin you inspect, you increase your chances of finding one, and when you do, you join a long tradition of treasure hunters, archivists, and historians who see in each era not a defect, but a rare and beautiful fingerprint of history. And as we explore these details today, remember that the 2001 cent valued at $82 is just one example. A reminder that there are countless hidden gems in circulation, waiting for their moment to shine. So keep looking, keep learning, and keep the excitement alive, because your next handful of change might just hold a little piece of minting history worth far more than anyone would guess at first glance. And if you enjoy this journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers, and stay tuned for more incredible stories and discoveries from the world of numismatics. Next, 2005 1 cent coin. Today we take you deep into the fascinating and often surprising world of numismatics, the art and science of studying and collecting coins, and our spotlight today is on a small but mighty piece of copper-plated zinc that has captured the attention of collectors and treasure hunters alike, the 2005 D 1 cent coin. A coin that in ordinary circulation might seem to have little more than face value, but which, under the right circumstances, can be worth as much as $108 thanks to certain rare errors and minting mistakes that elevate it from pocket change to a collectible prize. And as we unfold the details, you'll understand why even such a modern penny can command a price far beyond its face value. The D mint mark on this coin denotes that it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the United States Mint's primary production facilities, which in 2005 was producing billions of pennies for circulation. Yet even in this era of mass production, imperfections crept into the process, making certain examples of the 2005 D Lincoln cent highly desirable. To understand the journey of this coin, we need to start with its composition and design. In 2005, the U.S. penny was made of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating, carrying the familiar Lincoln obverse designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the reverse carried Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, which had been in place since 1959, although at first glance every 2005 D penny might look identical. Closer inspection under magnification can reveal minting blunders that transform these common coins into collectible rarities. Some of the most sought-after errors include doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, misaligned dies, and plating errors, each of which can dramatically affect value. Double die errors occur when the coin's design is accidentally impressed into the die twice at slightly different angles, creating a noticeable doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements. For the 2005D cent, such doubling can be found on the date, the Liberty inscription, or In God We Trust. And strong examples are prized because they show clear separation lines visible even without magnification. Off-center strikes are another dramatic minting mistake where the blank planchet is not correctly seated in the striking chamber, causing part of the design to be missing and an unstruck blank crescent of metal to remain. On the coin, the more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing the full date and mint mark, the more valuable it can be, often fetching prices far above the $108 mark if the misalignment is severe. Then we have die cracks and cuds, both of which occur due to the wear and tear on the dies used to strike coins. A die crack appears as a raised line on the surface of the coin where metal has flowed into a fracture in the die, and while small cracks may be common, large and dramatic. Cracks can make a coin more desirable. A cut is even more dramatic, appearing when a portion of the die breaks away entirely, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface and sometimes obscuring parts of the design. Misaligned die strikes occur when one die is slightly out of position relative to the other, producing a coin where the obverse and reverse designs are not perfectly centered with each other, and this error, while less visually dramatic than an off-center strike, still attracts collectors when the misalignment is noticeable. Plating errors are a unique issue for copper-plated zinc cents. Sometimes the plating process fails, leaving areas where zinc is exposed or where the copper layer bubbles and peels. Such dramatic flaws can make the coin both visually interesting and valuable. Collectors seek these anomalies because they are tangible evidence of the minting process's complexities and imperfections. The $108 value figure for certain 2005D pennies arises when these errors are both significant and preserved in high-grade condition, uncirculated or mint state. Examples with sharp details, original luster, and minimal contact marks can see a dramatic increase in desirability. Grading is performed by professional services such as PCGS or NGC, which assign a numeric grade on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. With 70 representing a perfect coin, a high-grade 2005D cent with a strong error might only have cost someone a penny in change but can sell for over $100 in the right market. Part of what makes the hunt for such coins exciting is that they are still potentially in circulation. Given the billions of 2005D cents minted, most are ordinary, but the rare few with dramatic flaws slipped into the money supply unnoticed, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector or curious cashier to spot them. Some collectors focus their searches on rolls of pennies from banks, buying $25 boxes of coins to search through hundreds or thousands of pieces, hoping to find that elusive double die or off-center strike, while others frequent coin shows, estate sales, or online auctions where such errors may surface. The thrill lies in the treasure hunting aspect as much as in the profit potential, and beyond the financial reward, there's a deep historical and technical satisfaction in holding a coin that tells a story of the mint's inner workings and occasional human or mechanical missteps. To put the $108 valuation in context, it's important to understand the dynamics of coin collecting markets. Rarity and demand are the two key drivers of value. Even a modern coin can become highly sought after if it possesses a rare error and is in superb condition. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often seek to acquire one example of each major error type from different years and mints, and for 2005D the right error in the right condition can be a cornerstone piece. Market prices can fluctuate based on overall demand, the popularity of error coins, and even broader economic trends. As more people take up the hobby, particularly in times of heightened interest in tangible assets, the competition for rare coins increases, potentially pushing values higher. Furthermore, provenance can play a role. If a specific 2005D error coin has been featured in a major auction or in numismatic literature, it can gain prestige and command a premium. The $108 figure is therefore not a fixed or absolute ceiling but rather a reference point for a common range in the current market for notable examples. Another factor in the coin's appeal is educational. Many collectors enjoy using error coins like the 2005D double die or off-center strike as teaching tools to explain the minting process, showing how dies are created, how planchets are prepared, and how high-speed presses strike coins at extraordinary rates, typically hundreds of coins per minute. In such a fast-paced environment, even tiny misalignments or defects can create distinct variations before they are caught by quality control. Some errors are caught and destroyed, but others escape into circulation, and because pennies are so common and low in face value, errors in cents are often overlooked at first, increasing their chances of surviving undetected in the end. The story of the 2005 1 cent worth $108 is a story of the extraordinary hiding in the ordinary, a reminder that careful observation and a bit of knowledge can turn a routine transaction into a discovery moment. And for those who take the time to learn about the different types of minting errors, the patterns of their occurrence, and the grading standards that determine market value, the rewards can be both financial and intellectual. So whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone curious about the coins jangling in your pocket, keep an eye out for that 2005 Lincoln cent with something unusual about it. Because while most will be worth just 1 cent, a rare few will be worth 100 times that. And finding one could be your ticket to a great numismatic story and a bit of extra cash. So dive into your change, enjoy the hunt, and remember to like and subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers for more deep dives into the hidden treasures of everyday currency, where every coin has a story and sometimes even a penny can be worth a fortune. Next, 1975 1 cent coin. Today we're diving deep into a particularly captivating subject. The 1975 Lincoln 1 cent coin, a humble penny from the Denver Mint that in certain conditions and because of its errors and mistakes can be worth as much as $193, an incredible leap from its face value of just 1 cent. And to understand how a coin that most people would pass over without a second thought could command such a premium, we need to dig into the history, the minting process, the kinds of errors that occurred in 1975, and why collectors are willing to pay good money for these imperfections. Starting with the basics, the Lincoln cent in 1975 was still struck in the bronze composition that had been in use since 1962, consisting of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving the coin its rich reddish-brown tone when new. And unlike later zinc-based cents that corrode easily, these bronze coins have a more solid weight and feel, and in 1975, the design was the familiar one used since 1959, with Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, facing right, the date 1975 positioned to the right of his bust, and the mint mark, D for Denver just below the date, while the reverse still bore the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, with United States of America and E pluribus unum above, and 1 cent below. Yet among the hundreds of millions of 1975 cents produced, a small fraction emerged with errors, flaws introduced during the minting process, that made them stand out to collectors and specialists, and it is these coins, with their deviations from the norm, that can be valued at $193 or more, especially in high-grade, uncirculated condition. So let's break down the possibilities. One of the most visually striking and valuable types of error is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet is not perfectly seated between the dies at the moment of striking, causing part of the design to be missing and replaced by a blank crescent of metal, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, the value can rise dramatically, particularly if the date and mint mark remain visible. Another common but collectible error is the broad strike, which happens when the collar die, the retaining ring that keeps the coin the correct diameter during striking, malfunctions or is missing, allowing the metal to spread out beyond normal dimensions, producing a flattened coin without the raised rim, which makes it instantly recognizable. Then there are die cracks and cuds, formed when the steel dies used to strike the coins develop small fractures or pieces break away, leading to raised lines, blobs, or missing areas in the coin's design. And these can range from subtle hairline cracks to dramatic die breaks that obliterate parts of the lettering or design, each one a unique fingerprint of that moment in minting history. But perhaps the most sought-after error among Lincoln cent enthusiasts is the doubled die, an error introduced during the die-making process when the die is impressed with the coin's design more than once in slightly different positions, leading to doubled images of numbers, letters, or design features, and for the 1975 cent, a true double die obverse or reverse, particularly if visible to the naked eye in areas like Liberty, the date, or the Lincoln Memorial, can fetch premium prices, often well over the $193 mark if the coin is in pristine condition, and while some forms of doubling, such as machine doubling caused by die bounce, are common and not especially valuable, true hub doubling is rarer and more desirable. Another fascinating possibility is a wrong planchet error, which occurs when a cent design is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, resulting in a piece that is the wrong size, weight, or metal composition. And because 1975 was a time when the US Mint produced coins for other countries as well. Such mix-ups, while rare, did occur, and these wrong planchet strikes are often worth hundreds of dollars or more, depending on the metal and condition. And then there are clipped planchets, where the blank was cut from the metal strip too close to the edge, leaving a curved or straight clip that results in a missing section of metal, a flaw that is immediately visible and quite collectible when genuine. Plus, we must consider mintmark anomalies, such as repunched mintmarks, RPMs, where the D was punched into the die more than once, leading to overlapping impressions that vary in clarity and appeal to specialists. And in the world of grading, the condition of the coin is paramount, with mint state, MS coins, those that have never been in circulation, being the most desirable, especially if they retain their original luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks. Because an error in poor condition might still be interesting, but its value is significantly less than the same error in crisp, untouched state, and this is where third-party grading companies like PCGS, NGC, or Annex come in, certifying the authenticity and condition of these era coins and giving buyers confidence in their purchases. So how does one find a 1975 D cent worth $193 or more? It begins with knowledge, knowing what to look for, whether you're searching through coin rolls from the bank, examining your pocket change, or exploring old jars of pennies tucked away for decades, paying close attention to unusual shapes, sizes, lettering, doubling, missing details, or any other anomalies that stand out from the typical strike. And while finding one might feel like winning a small lottery, it's not pure luck. Experienced searchers develop an eye for the subtle differences, understanding that each error tells a story about the minting process, the machinery, and the human oversight involved, and in the broader context. These errors remind us that even in an industrial process designed for perfection, imperfections not only occur but are cherished, turning what might have been a flaw into a prized possession. And for collectors, the 1975 D penny is a perfect example of how history, technology, and human error intersect in fascinating ways. So as we wrap up this deep dive, remember that every coin you handle is an opportunity, every roll you search is a potential treasure hunt. And the next 1975 D cent you inspect might just be the one with the error that turns a simple piece of copper into a $193 prize. And if you've enjoyed this journey into the hidden value of America's smallest denomination, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers, and join us for more incredible stories and discoveries from the endlessly fascinating world of numismatics. Next, 2000 D 1 cent coin. Today's focus is on a coin that many people see every day without giving it a second thought, yet under the right circumstances it can be worth far more than its humble face value. The 2000 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that, because of certain rare minting errors and striking mistakes, can command a price of up to $64 in the collector's market. And as we go deeper, you'll discover why even a relatively modern penny can capture the attention of experienced numismatists and beginner treasure hunters alike. The D Mintmark identifies this coin as being struck at the Denver Mint, one of the major branches of the United States Mint that in the year 2000 was producing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation. Yet despite the advanced technology and strict quality control measures in place, errors still slipped through the cracks, making certain examples unique and highly desirable. To appreciate why this coin can be worth more than 60 times its face value, we must first understand its design, composition, and minting process. In 2000, the Lincoln cent was composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating, giving it the familiar appearance of older bronze cents while being much cheaper to produce. The obverse bore the classic bust of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, complete with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," to the left, and the date. With the D mint mark to the right, the reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, which had been used since 1959, showing the monument in fine detail with "United States of America" across the top, "E Pluribus Unum" just above the memorial, and 1 cent at the bottom. This iconic design was familiar to Americans for decades, but even such a standard piece could leave the mint with flaws that collectors now hunt for. Among the most valuable errors for the 2000 penny are doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, misaligned dies, and plating errors. A doubled die occurs during the creation of the die itself when the design is impressed twice at slightly different angles, leading to noticeable doubling of certain features on the coin. For the 2000 cent, this might appear on the date, the word "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," and strong, clear doubling visible without magnification can drastically increase the coin's value. Off-center strikes are another dramatic type of minting error in which the coin blank, known as a planchet, is not correctly centered in the striking chamber when the dies come together. This results in part of the design being missing and a blank crescent of metal remaining on the coin. Collectors particularly prize off-center strikes where the date and mint mark remain visible, as these details are essential for identification. The further off-center the strike, the more unusual and valuable the coin becomes, sometimes exceeding the $64 range depending on the severity and condition. Broad strikes happen when the coin is struck outside of the retaining collar that normally shapes the rim, resulting in a coin that is larger in diameter with no raised rim. This can give the coin a spread-out appearance that makes it instantly stand out from ordinary cents. Die cracks are another favorite among error collectors, occurring when the die used to strike the coins develops a fracture, allowing metal to flow into the crack during striking. This creates a raised line on the surface of the coin. Small cracks may be fairly common and not particularly valuable, but dramatic die cracks, especially those that run across Lincoln's portrait or through the memorial, can make a coin more appealing. Cuds are a more extreme form of die damage in which a piece of the die actually breaks away, leaving a large, raised blob of metal where part of the design should be. These are rarer and often more valuable. Misaligned dies are another variety of error in which the obverse and reverse dies are not perfectly aligned with one another, causing one side of the coin to be off-center while the other remains normal. This can create a noticeable shift in the design elements. Plating errors are unique to modern copper-plated zinc cents. If the plating process fails, the coin may exhibit missing copper exposing the grayish zinc core beneath, or the copper may bubble or peel away, producing a visually striking and collectible flaw. Some coins may even leave the mint with improper alloy bonding or incomplete plating coverage. All of these error types become significantly more valuable when found on coins in high-grade condition. Collectors and grading companies such as PCGS or NGC evaluate coins using the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with mint state, MS, grades starting at 60 and going up to 70 for a perfect coin with no visible imperfections even under magnification. A 2000 penny with a strong, dramatic error in mint state condition is far more desirable than a circulated example, because it retains its original luster, sharp strike, and minimal marks from handling. The $64 value often comes from examples with significant errors that also have strong eye appeal and have been preserved carefully. Part of the excitement for collectors is that these coins are still out there in circulation or in old jars, coin rolls, and bank boxes. The sheer number of 2000 pennies struck means that while the odds are small, the potential for discovery exists. Collectors frequently search bank rolls, buying them in bulk to examine each coin under good lighting and magnification, hoping to spot that doubled die, severe off-center strike, or other rare anomaly. Others scour flea markets, estate sales, garage sales, or online auction listings for overlooked treasures. Sometimes coins are misidentified or not recognized by their sellers, allowing savvy buyers to acquire valuable errors for little more than face value. The marketplace for such coins is influenced by both rarity and demand. When a specific error type becomes popular among collectors, prices can rise quickly, and notable auction sales or media coverage can further boost interest. For instance, if a high-grade 2000 penny with an exceptional off-center strike sells for well over $64 in a public auction, this can bring renewed attention to the date and mint mark, encouraging more people to search. For similar coins, the educational value of these errors also adds to their appeal, as they help demonstrate the intricacies of the minting process and the ways in which mechanical failures, human oversight, or material flaws can lead to striking variations. For many collectors, the fun lies not just in the potential profit but in the thrill of the hunt and the satisfaction of finding a piece of minting history. Every error coin is a physical record of an unplanned event during its creation. Whether it's a misfeed of the planchet, a loose die, a fractured striking surface, or a plating mishap, and each one tells a unique story. When you hold a 2000 penny with a rare error in your hand, you're holding a tangible artifact of that moment in the mint. It's a small, round witness to the fact that even in a facility designed for precision and uniformity, imperfections can and do occur, making the coin not only collectible but historically significant in its own small way. So while most of the 2000 pennies you encounter will be worth exactly 1 cent, keep your eyes open, because the right combination of error and condition could transform that tiny piece of metal into a $64 prize, and with knowledge, patience, and attention to detail, you could be the next person to pull such a treasure from circulation, proving once again that in the world of coin collecting, value is not always about age or precious metals but about rarity, uniqueness, and the stories coins have to tell. So as you continue your search and explore the world of rare coins, remember to always check your change carefully, examine each coin with curiosity, and never underestimate the humble penny. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers for more fascinating stories, tips, and discoveries from the endlessly intriguing universe of numismatics, where even the smallest coin can lead to the biggest surprises. Next, 1986 1-cent coin. We dive deep into the incredible world of numismatics to reveal how even the smallest and most common-looking pieces of change can hide secrets worth far more than their face value. And today we're going to explore the fascinating case of the 1986 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that in certain cases, because of specific minting errors and unusual mistakes, can be worth as much as $153, a huge leap from its humble 1-cent denomination. And while to most people it might look just like any other brownish penny from the 1980s, the truth is that coins struck in 1986 carry a variety of potential errors and oddities that make them highly collectible and valuable to the right buyer. And to understand why, we first need to place this coin in its historical and technical context. The 1986 Lincoln cent was struck during a transitional era in U.S. coinage, when the copper content had already been significantly reduced in 1982 from the traditional 95% copper bronze alloy to a copper-plated zinc composition, meaning that coins from 1986 consist of 97.5% zinc with only a thin layer of copper to give them their classic appearance. A change made for cost-saving reasons, but one that also introduced new challenges for the minting process, as zinc cores could corrode if exposed and were more prone to certain striking issues than the older, heavier bronze planchets. And like all Lincoln Memorial cents produced between 1959 and 2008, the obverse of the coin features Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the date 1986 on the right, and depending on the mint of origin, either no mint mark for Philadelphia or a D for Denver placed just below the date, while the reverse displays Frank Gasparo's detailed image of the Lincoln Memorial surrounded by inscriptions. Now in 1986, billions of these cents were struck, but among that massive output a small fraction left the mint with errors, which could occur at any stage of production, from the creation of the dies, to the preparation of the blanks, to the striking process itself, and these errors are what can make a coin leap from being worth 1 cent to $153 or even more depending on severity, visibility, and condition. One of the most visually striking types of error is the off-center strike, caused when the blank planchet is not properly seated between the dies when the coin is struck, leading to a design that is partially missing, with a crescent of blank metal replacing part of the image, and the more dramatic the off-centering, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. Then there is the broad strike error, which happens when the collar die fails to hold the planchet in place during striking, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter without forming the raised rim, producing a coin that looks stretched and flat around the edges. Another notable error type is the die crack or die break, where the steel dies used to strike the coins develop fractures or lose small pieces over time, causing raised lines or blobs of metal on the struck coins, and when a piece of the die breaks off completely, it leaves a cud, an unstruck, raised area of metal usually near the rim, that collectors find fascinating and unique. But perhaps the most famous and sought-after errors among Lincoln cents are doubled dies, which occur when the design on the die is impressed more than once in slightly different positions during the hubbing process, creating doubled images of the lettering, date, or other design elements. And while not all doubling is valuable, machine doubling from die bounce is common but generally worth little. True hub doubling can make a 1986 cent far more desirable, especially if the doubling is strong and clearly visible without magnification. Another rare but dramatic mint error is the wrong planchet strike, which happens when a cent design is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, leading to differences in size, weight, and composition that make the piece instantly recognizable as something unusual. And while wrong planchet errors are scarce, they are among the most valuable because of their obvious visual impact. Then there are clipped planchets, which occur when the metal strip from which blanks are punched overlaps or is misaligned during cutting, producing coins with curved or straight missing sections, which can range from subtle to extreme. And in addition to these striking and planchet-related errors, there are also mintmark varieties to consider, such as repunched mintmarks, RPMs, where the D on Denver minted coins was punched more than once into the die in slightly different positions, creating a doubled appearance that collectors enjoy hunting for. And all of these error types can occur in combination, leading to coins that are doubly or triply appealing to specialists. Now, the value of any error coin, including the 1986 1 cent worth $153, depends heavily on condition, with uncirculated examples, graded mint state, MS, by professional services like PCGS, NGC, or Annex, commanding the highest prices, especially if they retain full original mint luster, sharp details, and minimal contact marks. Because in the world of coin collecting, rarity and condition go hand in hand when determining value. So how can someone actually find one of these valuable 1986 cents? It starts with being observant and patient, carefully examining change, coin rolls from banks, or old jars of pennies for anything that looks unusual, uneven strikes, missing sections, doubled letters, odd shapes, or strange colors, and using tools like a jeweler's loupe or digital microscope to check for fine details that might not be visible to the naked eye. Experienced collectors know that many treasures are missed simply because they blend in with ordinary coins at first glance, and each of these errors tells a story about the minting process, the machinery involved, and the quality control measures that sometimes fail, turning an intended flaw into a collectible prize. And the 1986 penny is a perfect case study for how mass-produced objects can still yield rare and valuable anomalies, because while billions were made, the number of true error examples in high condition is tiny, creating a demand among collectors that drives prices upward. So every time you handle a penny from this year, remember that there's a small but real chance it could be something special, something worth far more than a cent. And the thrill of discovering one is not just in its monetary value but in the knowledge that you've uncovered a piece of minting history that almost nobody else noticed. And that sense of connection to history, craftsmanship, and chance is what makes numismatics so endlessly fascinating. So keep your eyes open, your curiosity alive, and your search ongoing, because the next coin you pick up might be the one that transforms your pocket change into a collector's treasure. And if you've enjoyed this exploration into the hidden value of the 1986 Lincoln cent and the many ways minting errors can make a coin worth big money, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers, and join us for more in-depth dives into the stories, mysteries, and values of coins from across history. Next, 1997 D1 cent coin. Today we are focusing on a coin that millions of people have likely handled without realizing its potential. The 1997 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, struck at the Denver Mint and often passed along as nothing more than a simple copper-plated penny. Yet certain examples of this coin with rare minting errors and striking mistakes have been known to reach an impressive value of $462 in the collector's market. And as we explore its background, composition, errors, and why it can be so valuable, you will see how something as ordinary as a penny can transform into a highly sought-after piece for those who know what to look for. The D mint mark on the 1997 D penny tells us it was produced at the Denver Mint, a major branch of the United States Mint that year responsible for producing hundreds of millions of coins with high-speed machinery and strict quality control standards. Yet even with these modern processes, mistakes happen, and some of those mistakes slip through unnoticed into circulation, becoming treasures for those with a keen eye. The coin itself follows the classic Lincoln cent design that had been in place for decades at that time. The obverse features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln created by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth, along with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust." Along the top, Liberty, to the left of Lincoln's profile, and the date, 1997. Along with the D mint mark to the right. The reverse features Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, with the monument rendered in fine detail. United States of America. Across the top, the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, just above the memorial, and 1 cent, prominently displayed at the bottom. By 1997 the Lincoln cent was made primarily of zinc, 97.5%, with a thin copper plating, 2.5%, a change from earlier bronze compositions that began in 1982. This copper-plated zinc structure introduced certain vulnerabilities that could lead to specific error types, and it also made plating mistakes more likely. The Denver Mint struck billions of these coins in 1997, so the vast majority are worth only face value, but it's the tiny fraction with notable minting errors that can elevate the value to hundreds of dollars. The most sought-after errors for the 1997 D penny include double die errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, die cuds, misaligned die strikes, struck-through errors, and plating defects. Double die errors are a favorite among collectors and occur when the coin's design is impressed onto the die twice at slightly different angles or positions, creating a doubling effect that can be visible in the lettering, numbers, or design details. For the 1997 D, notable double dies might show on Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself, with the most valuable example showing bold, clear doubling visible to the naked eye, off-center. Strikes are another dramatic error type where the blank planchet is not correctly seated in the striking chamber when the dies come together, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank, crescent-shaped area on the coin. Collectors especially prize off-center strikes where the date and mint mark remain fully visible, because without those details the coin loses much of its collectible appeal. The more severe the off-center strike, generally the higher the value. Broad strikes happen when a coin is struck without the retaining collar in place, allowing the metal to spread out and produce a coin that is larger in diameter and lacks the typical raised rim. This type of error is visually distinct and sought after for its uniqueness. Die cracks occur when the die used to strike coins develops fractures from stress and wear, and these appear on the coin as raised lines. Minor die cracks may not add much value, but large, dramatic cracks or multiple cracks can make the coin stand out to collectors. Cuds are a more extreme form of die damage in which a piece of the die face actually breaks off, leaving a void into which metal flows during striking, producing a raised, blob-like feature on the coin that obliterates part of the design. Cuds are considered dramatic errors and can command significant premiums. Misaligned die strikes happen when one of the dies, usually the obverse, is slightly out of position relative to the other, resulting in a coin where one side's design is shifted toward one edge, while the other side appears normal. Struck-through errors occur when a foreign object, such as a piece of cloth, thread, or even metal shavings, becomes trapped between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an impression of the object in the coin's surface. Plating errors are particularly relevant to copper-plated zinc cents like the 1997D. And these can take the form of missing copper plating, exposing the gray zinc beneath, bubbles or blisters in the plating due to improper bonding, or peeling copper layers. Each of these errors tells a small story about what was happening in the minting process at the exact moment that particular coin was struck, and collectors value them both for their rarity and for the insight they provide into the mechanics of coin production. The $462 value for certain 1997 pennies is not random but reflects the combination of a dramatic error, high-grade condition, and market demand. Grading plays a huge role in determining a coin's worth, and professional grading companies such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, use the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better preservation. Coins in mint state, MS grades, especially MS 65 or higher, with full luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks, can bring top dollar when they also have an appealing and uncommon error. Most circulated examples with minor errors might only bring a few dollars, but combine a significant error type like a severe off-center strike, bold double die, or large cut with a mint state grade, and you have a coin that could easily approach or exceed that $462 benchmark. What makes hunting for such coins exciting is the possibility that they are still out there in circulation. Given the enormous number of 1997 pennies produced, the odds of finding one are low but not impossible. Dedicated collectors often search bank rolls, coin jars, and change received from everyday transactions. Some buy boxes of pennies from banks, containing 2,500 coins each, and examine every single one with magnification and good lighting. Others attend coin shows, estate sales, or online auctions, looking for misidentified or overlooked pieces that match the error characteristics they know to watch for. The coin collecting market is influenced by trends, publicity, and the natural ebb and flow of demand. When an error coin from a specific date and mintmark becomes widely recognized and discussed among collectors, prices can rise quickly as more people compete for the available examples. The 1997D is an excellent example of how even a relatively recent coin can carry significant value when it possesses the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector interest, beyond their monetary worth. Error coins like these serve as tangible teaching tools about the minting process, offering clear evidence of how complex and precise coin production must be, and how even small variations in equipment, materials, or procedure can produce noticeable differences in the finished product. Each error coin is a little historical artifact, capturing a specific and unrepeatable moment in time at the mint. The hunt for such coins blends patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck, and for those who find them, the reward is not just financial but also the satisfaction of discovering something rare and unusual hidden in plain sight. So as you go through your change, keep a sharp eye out for the 1997D Lincoln cent with something out of the ordinary, because while most will be worth only a penny, the right one could be worth $462 or even more in the right market. And remember that in the world of numismatics, value often lies in rarity, condition, and story, all wrapped up in a small piece of metal you can hold in your hand. So enjoy the hunt, learn the signs of valuable errors, and who knows, you might just pull a miniature treasure from your pocket. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers for more incredible insights into the coins you see every day but may never have looked at closely enough. Because sometimes the most ordinary coin can turn out to be the rarest and most valuable piece of all. Next, 2006 Lincoln penny. Today we are taking a deep dive into one of the more intriguing modern pennies, the 2006 Lincoln 1-cent coin, which in certain rare circumstances, due to errors and mistakes made during its production, can be worth as much as $357, an astounding leap from its humble face value of just 1 cent. And while the 2006 penny is a common date in the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, with hundreds of millions struck at the U.S. mints in Philadelphia and Denver, the reality is that some of these coins escape the mint's quality control with unique and unusual characteristics that make them stand out in the eyes of serious collectors. So before we break down these errors, let's put this coin into context. The 2006 Lincoln cent, like all cents made from mid-1982 onward, was composed primarily of zinc. 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating that gives it the familiar reddish-brown appearance. This copper-plated zinc composition was introduced for cost savings but also brought with it a range of new minting challenges, from plating blisters to striking weakness, and the design remained the same one that had been in place since 1959, with Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and Frank Gasparo's detailed depiction of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, the date 2006, and mint mark either P for Philadelphia or D for Denver, appear just to the right of Lincoln's bust. Now, when coins are struck in such huge numbers, even with advanced machinery and quality control, the occasional error is inevitable, and for collectors, these are the coins that can turn into small treasures. In the case of the 2006 Lincoln cent, there are several types of errors that can elevate its value to $357 or more. One of the most dramatic and sought after is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet is not seated correctly between the dies during striking, resulting in part of the design being missing and replaced by a blank crescent of metal. The value depends on how far off-center the strike is, with coins showing 50% or more off-centering while still retaining a visible date and mint mark being especially valuable. Another major error type is the broad strike, caused when the collar die, the part that holds the coin in place and shapes its rim, fails, allowing the metal to spread out wider than normal, producing a coin with a flat, rimless edge that can look almost like a token. Then there are die cracks, die breaks, and cuds, all caused by stress and damage to the dies themselves. A die crack appears as a raised line on the coin's surface, following the fracture in the die, and when a piece of the die breaks away completely, the resulting area on the coin is called a cud, which appears as a raised, blank blob that interrupts the design. Both die cracks and cuds can be collectible, especially when they are large and in unusual locations. But perhaps the most famous and eagerly hunted type of error is the doubled die, where the coin's design appears doubled because of a misalignment during the die creation process. True doubled dies are caused when the hub imprints the design onto the die in more than one position, creating clear and noticeable doubling in elements like the date, the word Liberty, or the lettering on the reverse. And while many coins exhibit minor doubling from mechanical causes, which usually adds little value, a strong doubled die on a 2006 cent can fetch serious interest and prices. Another high-value error is the wrong planchet strike, when a cent design is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination such as a dime or foreign coin, resulting in a piece with the wrong size, weight, or color, and such coins are instantly recognizable and rare. Clipped planchets are another possibility, created when the blanking press overlaps its cuts on the metal strip, leaving a crescent-shaped or straight-edge clip missing from the coin. And while smaller clips are interesting, larger and more obvious clips tend to bring in higher values. There are also issues specific to copper-plated zinc cents, such as plating blisters and peeling, where gas trapped between the zinc core and the copper layer during production causes small raised bubbles or areas where the plating flakes away. While minor examples might not be worth much, dramatic or extensive plating errors can draw collector interest. In some cases, you might also encounter coins with rotated dies, where the reverse design is misaligned with the obverse when you flip the coin, a subtle but collectible type of error depending on the degree of rotation. And then there are rare cases of multiple strikes, where the coin is struck more than once, creating overlapping images that can be spectacular in appearance. Now, when it comes to determining whether a 2006 penny is worth $357 or more, condition plays a crucial role. Coins in mint state, meaning they have never been in circulation and retain their original luster, will always be worth more than worn examples, and this is where third-party grading services such as PCGS, NGC, or Annex become important, as they can authenticate both the coin's condition and the nature of its error, giving collectors and buyers confidence in its value. So how do you find one of these gems? The answer is persistence and a keen eye. Many collectors search through rolls of coins from banks, examine their pocket change, or even revisit old coin jars from years past, looking for anything that deviates from the norm. Letters that look doubled, missing parts of the design, odd shapes, strange colors, or anything else that doesn't match a standard strike. Magnification tools like a jeweler's loupe or a coin microscope can make this process far more effective, and the thrill of finding such a coin is part of what makes the hobby so addictive, because every 2006 penny you check could, in theory, be the one with the flaw that turns it into a collector's prize. And beyond just the monetary value, owning a mint error is like owning a piece of minting history, a snapshot of the moment when something went slightly wrong in the carefully controlled coin production process. And it's those tiny deviations that become treasures in the eyes of collectors. The 2006 penny might be a relatively recent coin, but its errors remind us that even in the modern era of high-speed precision minting, mistakes still happen, and when they do, they create opportunities for discovery. So every time you get change at a store or open a roll of coins, remember to look closely, because what might appear at first glance to be just another common Lincoln cent could turn out to be a $357 rarity. And if you've enjoyed this in-depth exploration of the 2006 Lincoln cent and the fascinating ways that errors and mistakes can turn pocket change into something worth big money, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers, and join us as we continue uncovering the incredible stories, values, and history behind the coins that pass through our hands every day. Next, 2010 D1 cent coin. We dive deep into the world of numismatics, uncovering the amazing stories and hidden treasures behind the coins you might see every single day without realizing their potential value. And today we're exploring one of the most intriguing modern pennies to capture collectors' attention, the 2010 D Lincoln 1 cent coin. A piece that in certain rare cases and due to specific minting errors and mistakes can be worth as much as $116, a shocking increase from its humble face value of just 1 cent, and while at first glance the 2010 D penny may look like any other modern cent in your change, the truth is that errors, anomalies, and unique striking issues can make some of these coins worth far more than the average person would expect. So before we break down the different kinds of errors that can lead to such a valuation, it's worth taking a look at the background of the coin itself. 2010 was the first year after the historic four-design Lincoln Bicentennial Series of 2009, which celebrated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth with 4 reverse designs depicting stages of his life. And beginning in 2010, the reverse of the Lincoln cent was permanently changed from the Lincoln Memorial design used from 1959 to 2008 to the new Union Shield design created by Lyndall Bass, symbolizing Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single and united country. The obverse remained Victor David Brenner's iconic 1909 portrait of Lincoln, facing right, with the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust" along with the date 2010. And the D mint mark for Denver, and like all cents struck since mid-1982, the 2010 D is composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating to give it its traditional look, and this zinc core, while cheaper for the mint to produce, is softer and more prone to certain flaws, leading to a range of potential mint errors. So when we talk about a 2010 D penny being worth $116, we're talking about coins that have something that sets them apart from the billions of others made that year. One of the most eye-catching types of error is the off-center strike, where the coin's design is not properly centered because the blank planchet was misaligned during striking, and depending on how far off the strike is, values can climb quickly, especially if both the date and mint mark are still visible. Another dramatic error is the broad strike, which occurs when the retaining collar fails to keep the planchet in place, allowing the metal to spread beyond the normal diameter and produce a flat, rimless edge. There are also die cracks, which are raised lines on the coin caused by fractures in the striking die, and when a piece of the die actually breaks off, it produces a cud, an unstruck blob of metal, usually along the rim, which can cover parts of the design, both of which are collectible. Then there are doubled dies, perhaps the most famous error type among Lincoln cents, which happen when the design on the die is impressed more than once in slightly different positions during hubbing, resulting in doubled images of lettering, numbers, or other design features. A strong doubled die can make a modern cent worth hundreds depending on the strength and location of the doubling, but not all doubling is valuable. Machine doubling, caused by die shift during striking, is far more common and much less desirable. Another valuable category is wrong planchet errors, when the cent design is struck on a blank, intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, leading to differences in weight, size, or color that make the error obvious. Then there are clipped planchets, created when the metal strip from which blanks are cut overlaps or is misaligned during cutting, leaving a curved or straight missing section in the coin. Another flaw specific to copper-plated zinc cents is plating blistering, which happens when gas trapped between the zinc core and copper layer during production forms bubbles that are visible on the surface. These can vary in size from tiny pinpoints to large bumps, and while small blisters are common and not especially valuable, dramatic or unusual ones can be collectible. Die deterioration doubling is another possibility, caused by worn dies that create distorted or fat letters and numbers, though this is usually considered less desirable than true hub doubling. And some 2010D cents have been found with partial collar strikes, where the coin is struck only partly within the collar, creating a visible railroad rim effect. In addition to striking errors, coins can also be misaligned in ways that rotate the reverse in relation to the obverse, known as rotated die errors, which can be subtle or dramatic depending on the angle. And while the 2010D penny was struck with high modern minting standards, the sheer volume of coins produced means that even a small percentage of errors results in thousands of flawed coins in circulation, but only a fraction of those are ever spotted by the public. So what makes a 2010D error coin worth the top value of $116 is a combination of rarity, severity of the error, and condition, with uncirculated or mint state examples commanding the highest premiums, especially when authenticated and graded by professional services like PCGS, NGC, or Annex, where the grade reflects sharpness of strike, luster, and absence of wear. An error attribution confirms the exact nature of the mint mistake. Collectors are willing to pay more for these certified examples because they are guaranteed genuine. So how does one actually find one of these valuable coins? The answer is persistence and careful searching. Some people hunt through bank rolls of cents, others check pocket change, while some even buy bulk lots of mixed pennies to search for anomalies. And knowing what to look for is key, whether it's a missing section of design, odd shapes, doubled letters, bubbles in the plating, unusual rims, or other visual clues. Many people pass over valuable coins simply because they don't recognize the signs. But part of the fun of this hobby is that any ordinary-looking coin could turn out to be a hidden treasure if examined closely. And while finding a 2010D penny worth $116 is not common, the possibility is real enough to keep collectors searching, because beyond the money, each error coin is a small piece of minting history, capturing a moment when something went wrong in the precision process of coin production, turning what might have been a flaw into a unique and collectible object. And the 2010D penny reminds us that even in the modern era, with advanced quality control, the human and mechanical elements of minting still allow for surprises to slip through. So the next time you get change from a store or open a roll of cents, take a moment to look closely at the 2010DS you find. Because you never know when you might be holding a small copper-plated zinc disc that, thanks to a minting quirk, is worth over $100. And if you've enjoyed this deep look into the errors and values of the 2010D Lincoln Cent, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers, and join us for more incredible stories and discoveries from the world of coins where history, chance, and value meet in your very own hands. Last, today's spotlight is on a small yet remarkable piece of U.S. currency, the 2002D Lincoln 1-cent coin, which in its everyday form might pass unnoticed in pockets, cash registers, or coin jars, but certain rare examples bearing minting errors and striking mistakes have been known to command impressive values of up to $131 in the collector's market. And as we delve deep into its origins, production, error varieties, and market demand, you will see why this humble copper-plated penny has become a sought-after find for both seasoned numismatists and curious beginners. The D mint mark on this coin identifies it as having been struck at the Denver Mint, a major branch of the United States Mint responsible for producing billions of coins every year. And in 2002, the Lincoln Cent retained its long-standing design created to honor one of America's most beloved presidents, Abraham Lincoln. The obverse features the classic portrait by Victor David Brenner introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, displaying the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," along the upper rim, "Liberty," to the left of Lincoln's profile, and the date, 2002. With the D min mark to the right, the reverse showcases Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, with "United States of America" curving along the top, the Latin motto, "E pluribus unum," above the memorial, and 1 cent prominently displayed below. By this time, the Lincoln cents composition had shifted from its original bronze alloy to a core of 97.5% zinc coated with 2.5% copper, a change implemented in 1982 due to rising copper prices. This copper-plated zinc composition is notable because it can produce certain error types not commonly seen in earlier bronze cents. The Denver Mint in 2002 produced these coins using advanced high-speed presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute. Yet despite strict quality control, mistakes still occurred, and those mistakes are what turn an otherwise ordinary penny into a $131 collectible. Among the most desirable errors for the 2002 D penny are double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, die cuts, misaligned dies, struck-through errors, and plating anomalies. Double die errors occur during the die creation process when the coin's design is impressed twice at slightly different angles, producing a doubling effect on letters, numbers, or design details. For the 2002 D, bold doubling might appear on "Liberty, in God We Trust," or the date, with the most valuable example showing dramatic, well-defined doubling visible to the naked eye. Off-center strikes happen when the blank planchet is not properly centered between the dies during striking, resulting in part of the design being missing and leaving a blank crescent of unstruck metal. Collectors prefer off-center strikes that retain the full date and min mark because these details confirm the coin's identity and add to its market appeal. The more severe the off-center percentage, generally the higher the value. Broad strikes occur when the retaining collar that normally shapes the coin's rim is absent or malfunctioning during striking, causing the coin to spread out beyond its normal diameter without forming a raised rim. This error is visually striking and easily recognizable. Die cracks are formed when stress causes fractures in the die used to strike the coins, and during the striking process, molten metal flows into these cracks, leaving raised lines on the coin's surface. Small die cracks may be common, but large, dramatic ones, especially those crossing Lincoln's portrait or stretching across the Lincoln Memorial, can be much more valuable. Cuds are another dramatic error type that occurs when a portion of the die face breaks away entirely, leaving a void that fills with metal during striking, creating a raised blob-like feature on the coin that obliterates part of the design. Cuds are considered significant minting errors and are often highly sought after. Misaligned dies result when one die, typically the obverse, is not perfectly aligned with the reverse, causing one side of the coin's design to be shifted toward one edge. Struck-through errors occur when a foreign object, such as a piece of fabric, thread, wire, or metal shavings, comes between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an impression of the object in the finished coin, and plating errors are particularly associated with modern copper-plated zinc cents like the 2002 D. These can include missing copper plating that exposes the underlying zinc, bubbling or blistering of the copper layer caused by improper bonding, or peeling where the copper layer begins to detach from the zinc core. Each of these errors tells a unique story about the circumstances at the mint during the moment the coin was struck. And collectors value these not only for their rarity, but also for the insight they provide into the complex mechanical and material processes of coin production. The $131 valuation for certain 2002 D pennies is typically achieved when a coin combines a dramatic error with high-grade condition. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use the Sheldon scale to evaluate coins from 1 to 70, with coins graded at MS, mint state levels, especially MS 65 and above, commanding the highest prices due to their sharp details, original luster, and minimal marks. A severe off-center strike in MS 66, a large cut in MS 65, or a bold double die in MS67 could easily reach or exceed that $131 benchmark, especially when demand is high. What makes the pursuit of these coins exciting is that they are still potentially in circulation, given the large mintage of the 2002D penny, though rare. These era coins can occasionally turn up in pocket change, bank rolls, or coin jars that have been sitting for years. Dedicated searchers often purchase boxes of pennies from banks containing 2,500 coins each and examine them one by one under strong light and magnification. Others hunt at flea markets, coin shows, estate sales, and online auctions, looking for undervalued pieces that match the era characteristics they've learned to spot. The coin collecting market is influenced by rarity, condition, and demand. And when a particular era coin becomes well publicized or appears in a high-profile auction, its popularity can surge, driving up prices as more collectors compete for available specimens. Beyond their monetary value, coins like the 2002D with significant eras hold educational and historical value, serving as tangible artifacts of the minting process and reminders that even with modern technology, perfection is elusive. Each era coin captures a moment when something deviated from the expected routine, whether due to human oversight, machine malfunction, or material flaw, and for collectors, owning such a coin is like holding a small piece of minting history in their hand. So while the vast majority of 2002D pennies are worth only their face value, the rare examples with dramatic errors in high-grade condition can reach that $131 level, making them a worthy target for anyone who enjoys the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of discovery, and the potential for profit. So keep your eyes open when you handle your change, because the next coin you find might not just be a penny, it could be a miniature treasure with a story all its own. And for more deep dives into the fascinating world of numismatics, where even the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises, be sure to like and subscribe to Rare Coins Explorers so you never miss the chance to learn about and maybe even find your own rare and valuable piece of everyday currency.